okay, so today I went shopping and I realized that when you shop in any shop you go, there's profit and there's taxes, right? Now, this profit and taxes, the customer accounts for all of those. Like when you shop something, you pay the taxes on that product as VAT, value added taxes, and the profit to be made on that product. So this profit actually pays not one person, but quite a good number. For example, this profit is paying the wholesale or the supermarket, uh, the, 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 the manufacturers of the product, and maybe the guy who transported the products to the wholesale. So, and even the retailers. So the chain can be as long as three. So you can imagine paying profit for three, like for three different bodies. Like when you buy something, you're basically, you know, accounting for the profit and taxes of three different associates, you know, and they all make profit. It's up to you. Now, many times we buy products and we assume like I bought it for like what? How much was it? Like say you buy a loaf of bread. Currently, the year 2019, you can say a loaf of bread is like, let's say 50 shillings, right? So 50 shillings, you're paying for the taxes on that bread. You're paying for the profit the supermarket guy made. I think that's the retail. You're probably paying for the profit the wholesale guy made. I'm assuming that's the guy who had the products before the retail guy got it. And you're paying, you know, the manufacturers the profit, say Superloaf. You're paying them the profit and taxes too. So from that 50 shillings, when you exclude taxes and profit from like for all these three guys, the real manufacturing cost of that bread could be as low as 20 shillings or even 15. The rest is just business. Like as the bread is transferred from hand to hand to hand, the costs gotta go up, you know. And you, the customer, pays for all that, and you never complain for one bit. You know why you don't complain? Because there's nothing to complain about. You don't complain because it is a valid, it is legal business, and that's the only way the government can actually allow such business to proceed. But when you think about it, it feels like it feels like a ripoff, you know. So I say to myself, how can I be a little bit cheeky on this? And I realized one of the best ways to try to benefit from this is to set up a small shop where you buy these products at a slightly cheaper price, you sell them and consume them at the same time. Then I realized that practice is already going on. The so-called kiosks, probably every kiosk owner uses the same mechanism. Like, you know, you buy them in bulk and then you sell some, you use some at the same time. You make profit at the same time and you're consuming the product at a cheaper price. What if you just made a supermarket and you bought the products at an even cheaper price, sold them and consumed them at the same time? So you buy milk, you buy a whole truck of it, you know. Maybe you're buying every unit, like let's say at 60% less the price they want to charge it for. Sounds like a good idea, right? And then I said, wait, there's another guy here. Why don't you just make the bread? Because then you decide how much you want to sell it for, you know. You're literally a company now. You're a corporate. Then the question is, the easier it becomes, the harder it becomes. So the more safe you get, the more sneaky you get, the harder it is. And that's why you have very few people manufacturing bread and a lot of people having, you know, just being the consumers. So it's like this. Out of 100% the population, 80% of you, 80% of us, we're basically, you know, consumers. A lot of us are. So 80% of the population are are actually accounting for 20% of wealth and money in terms of circulating. You know, like if we have a whole billion shillings circulating right now, 80% of us are only exchanging or receiving or handing over 200 million. 20% of the remaining population, they're exchanging, receiving, or pocketing the remaining 800 million. And that's just an example. Back to the original discussion. A lot of us are consumers. We make losses in small bits. You buy a bread, you just lost like what, 20 shillings technically. But you buy bread every day for like 50 years, 70 years. When you do that math, then you realize someone has been making your 20 shillings for 20 years. Not just your 20 shillings, but 80% of the population have been giving these particular guys, very few guys, 20 shillings every time they buy bread for 50 years. So the guys who own these companies, the guys who run these big shops, the guys who run these big wholesales, they make profit. They make millions every day, and they'll continue doing that as long as you continue buying bread. They're not stealing your money. They're just offering you a necessity at a price. So I said this to myself. We got two sides here. And I view sides like this. We have the winning side and we have the losing side. In the world of business, the buyer is the losing side. The seller is always the winning side. Why is that? I mean, it's a willing buyer, willing seller, you both agree on it. Yeah. But I can lose to you and I can beat the next guy. And that's basically how business goes. I buy something from you, you make profit. Technically I made loss. But I find the next guy and I sell the same product to him and make profit. So he lost to me, but I lost to you. What does that mean? He can find the next guy and make another loss. So you have three stages here. Losses being made. Right? So you just need to know which stage to take. Now one thing for sure, the more you go down the ladder, the harder it becomes for you to make profit. The lower and lower you go, the riskier and harder it is for you to sell back whichever product it is. For example, that just happened if I'm a rockstar. If it's bread, if I buy bread from a shop, it's harder for me to sell it to anyone else and make profit. You can just go to that shop and get it at the same price I got it. I will only sell that bread if you're in a place and he cannot access the bread anywhere else. I might have lost to 3 guys at the top, but he can lose to me and the other 3 guys at the top. You see how that goes? Here's my solution. In this age of thriving economies, I realized that you can take any side you want. You can join in on any team you want. And since I like to join the winning team, here's my solution. If you never want to make loss in life, like the 20% who never make loss at all, they make profit all the time. This is how you do it. Buy your way in the corporate world. Now, how do you buy your way in the corporate world? It's simple. Buy stock. For example, I use cellular data. Like I use Safaricom. I'm a Safaricom user. Safaricom is a public company. It's listed in the NSE. I can say I spend roughly 500 shillings on my phone. Like my phone bill is about 500 shillings every month. So the guys at Safaricom, they're pretty much pocketing 500 shillings from me. How can I get that money back and even more? I simply buy stock from Safaricom. This is how. At this time, 2019, I think it's May. Yeah, it's May. It is May. Safaricom stock is going at 27 shillings a share. 10 years ago, I think it was 5 shillings. Now it's 27. They pay about a shilling every month. This year they pay, I think, 2. No, not every month, every year. So if every year I can get a shilling from 27 shillings, just like that, by being part of them, owning Safaricom, how many shares do I need to break even? And that is to get back the money I spent. So 500 shillings every month, that is 6,000 shillings every year. I need 6,000 shares from Safaricom, and it doesn't matter whether I use my phone or not, I can never use more money than they can give back to me. So I can use Safaricom the way I want, knowing that all that money will be granted back to me. Now 6,000 shillings, that's about 200,000 worth of shares from Safaricom. So if I can get 180,000 shillings and buy stock from Safaricom, I never have to worry about my phone bill, because every penny I use on them, I'll get it back the moment I get the first payout, and that's when the dividends get paid. What if I buy shares worth 300,000? What if I acquire shares from them worth 500,000? Then I'm getting actually all the money I spent on them and double. That is, I make double. So every month I'm getting more. Like I'm using all this money on data, calls and shit, but every year they give me even more money. You know why? Because I own them now. Now mark you, the money I spent buying shares or buying stock, it's still there. And here's the fun side. It appreciates. So let's say after 10 years, I'm like, okay, fine, I've been making money from these guys. I've been spending all this money on my phone bill, but I still make money. I can sell those stock and still make profit. You see how that works? And this is exactly how the corporate owners are. Their stock appreciates in value. Their stock makes them more money than they spend. So every year, every day, they make more money by the minute. As more guys like me rise up, they make more money, because that means more like me want to buy stock. So the value of stock rises. So the earlier you jump in this wagon, the better for you. And it's never too late. If you jump today, you're better off tomorrow. If you jump off tomorrow, you're better off the next day. If you jump in this wagon next year, you're better off the following year. The cycle never stops. Make a study. Look at all those companies you use. Look at all the products you use. And then decide this. I'm going to buy stock from every company that I consume their products, and make sure that the least stock I have at least gives me back all the money I spent buying their product. Like that, you never make loss. And with those companies that you cannot buy their stock, I'm talking about the private companies. Say you're buying phones, you're buying cars, you're buying houses and shit. Try to buy stock from other companies that you don't necessarily use their products, and they can just cancel out. But you gotta make sure that if you're spending 1,000,000 shillings every year, you have stock that can bring you back all that money in the same year and even make more money for you. If you can do that, you don't need to look for an income. You just need to be a good manager of your time. Now that sounds easy, but is it easy? Of course it's not easy. You can give me a 1,000,000 shillings right now, I can spend it comfortably, but I'll never have it again. If I invest a 1,000,000 shillings, I might just get, let's say, 100,000 back. So if I'm supposed to spend 100,000 back on a certain time frame, now that's cheaper than a 1,000,000 shillings, but I still got the first million. If you buy stock worth a million, you're not gonna get a 1,000,000 back. You wanna get something like, let's say, 200,000 or 100,000 shillings. So it's like, why don't you just spend the mill in the first place? Well, here's the thing: that stock will give you 100,000 shillings, probably like for like how many years? You do the math. So for you to actually spend a 1,000,000 shillings comfortably, and you have that 1,000,000, you gotta make sure you have at least 15 million. Now that's not easy. So it's your job, it's your duty to look for all this money, lots of it, and let that money feed you. So let your money make you more money. Turns out it's even harder than I thought, because where to get all this money in the first place? Here's the thing: the only way out is cut your losses, cut them as deep as you can, and just accumulate money as much as you can. Buy a lot of assets, buy land, buy houses, buy stock, buy anything that will give you money in the future. Do that for quite a while, and who knows, your grandchildren might just be the type to never ever worry about picking up a spoon to feed themselves.